Hello BookTube, I'm Roz and this is still my channel, A Journey Through Books. And today for my reading wrap-up, we are taking a journey through perhaps the darker side of life. So I'm not going to waste any more time before I have to start this for the 7th time because my cat is either knocking the phone down or making it look like I am filming this on a boat in the middle of a typhoon storm at sea, because he's rocking the entire table as he does his evening ablutions. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Last Kiss Before Dying, A Kiss Before Dying, sorry, by Ira Levin. And this book I actually thoroughly enjoyed. In fact, I've enjoyed both books now that I've read by Ira Levin. The other one I read was Rosemary's Baby, and that one was creepy and freaky. And I was expecting creepy and freaky, but I got it in a different way in this one. And I think books about psychopaths are probably a little bit more realistically scary than books about, you know, evil. Well, supernatural evil. Anyway, to get to the point of this, basically you are following a psychopath, and this guy is seriously twisted. The first part is written from his point of view in first person narrator, so you don't know what his name is, and that is important because the second part, wow, does that hammer one home. It was really, really well done. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And to those of you who are thinking of doing March Mystery Madness, this would actually be a good choice. It would fit in with some of your prompts. So just saying. The second book I want to talk about is one about, well, I'm not going to say Nazi Germany, but it's about World War II, set in Poland. This is based on a true story about a mother and a daughter who hid two Jewish families and, believe it or not, a Nazi soldier who, he wasn't a soldier, he didn't have the heart for it, he'd been conscripted and he wanted to get out. And it was a very, very interesting story. The style, however, is unusual. Well, it's very simplistic. If I page through this, you will see that, if I can find one now, there, like chapter 2 and 3, it's very short, and I think in a way that is what adds to the power of this, because I think that the danger is not hidden in flowery language. It's very clear, and also it doesn't go into a lot of gore and detail in that regard, which probably makes us a more suitable read for a younger reader who is learning about the World War II. But for an adult reader who is able to read between the lines, I think perhaps the very simplistic style actually in some ways can add to the horror, although personally my preference is a little bit more towards the flowery prose. You know, I like a story that one can get lost in, not one that is this short. But it was very effective, and it really shows you how some people in the world are really good, and the sacrifices that they are prepared to make for people they barely know when friends had turned their backs on them. And I thought this was a really touching story, a very moving story, and considering it was based on a true story, it added to the impact that it had. In fact, one of the reasons why I think that maybe she stayed away from the flowery prose was that she probably didn't want to add her own fiction to something. She kept it pretty bare, I think, to stick to reality. But it was a very interesting read. I read it in, I think, just over an hour. It really went fast. So if you're down on reading stats and you want to get them up, this is a good one to go for. I picked it up because it was the only one that I could reach on that top shelf without getting out the ladder that I hadn't read yet. So it was a good call. And then the next book I want to talk about is the one that I have just finished, and this is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. Now, I enjoy Anthony Horowitz in general. I love his Alex Rider series. I think I've said that more than once. I know I said it in my last video. I've got a young chap to read with the Anthony Horowitz Alex Rider series, and I mean, I love them too. I'm not going to lie, I love them too. But moving on, I've enjoyed his James Bond. I haven't read the most recent one, but I read the first one, Trigger Mortis. I mean, what a cool name. And I loved his Sherlock Holmes books, both The House of Silk and Moriarty. In fact, Moriarty is one of the few books that glinted down upon me with a mocking smile and says, I beat you. Because that book, I got to a certain spot, I swore out loud and then went back to the beginning to start rereading. And that has never happened before. So Anthony Horowitz really knows how to put together a crime novel. He knows, he really understands the genre, especially of the what they call the golden age, you know, the Agatha Christie feel. In fact, he is the guy who writes the screenplays for Midsummer Murders and Foyle's War as well. So he knows what he's doing with crime. And I really, really appreciated it in this book. This story is a story within a story. So you have a publisher who is reading a manuscript and you follow her, and she says right there in the beginning, this is the book that changed her life. And she says she said this about other books before, but in reality, you know, that would have only happened if they'd fallen off the shelf and hit someone on the head. Whereas this book really did change her life, and that's a big claim to start a book with. But considering everything, I can see that. So she reads the manuscript, and so you've got the mystery in the manuscript because she's reading a mystery story, and then you have the real life mystery. And he does a really good job of blurring the lines between fiction and reality. He really makes her life seem like it was real life and that it shouldn't follow these rules, you know, the fiction rules for crime fiction. It's like it's never the most obvious suspect, etc., etc. And I really, really enjoyed that. He had fantastic plot structure in this. He had such a convoluted, involved plot with these two stories intertwined and weaved together. And then he had really, really cool characters. Some were wonderful, some were horrid, but you know the character that you love to hate. And I think for people who love murder mysteries, this is definitely a good one to read. So March Mystery Madness recommendation number 2. And yeah, that is me keeping a reading wrap up, short, sweet, and to the point. But then the last thing you want somebody to do is to give you too much about crime novels, because what's the point in reading them if you don't get to solve them for yourself? So I'm now going to quickly show you what I bought. I have ordered 2 books from my favorite bookshop. They are coming. They didn't have them on the shelves, but they've ordered them for me. So I was in the mood for retail therapy. What can I say? Stress. So I went to go buy books because there's nothing like adding financial stress to normal stress. But anyway, so I went and I got Dominion by C.J. Sansom. I see that this book is set in an alternate history where Nazi Germany won. How horrifying. I remember Fatherland and thinking I'm never reading one of those again by Robert Harris, and now I've managed to pick up C.J. Sansom with it. This is what happens when you don't read the back of the book. So we'll see how this one goes. It is quite massive as well, but I'm expecting to enjoy this anyway. We will see what happens. I love C.J. Sansom's Matthew Shardlake series. In case you didn't know that yet, hello, welcome, you must be new. And so I'm pretty sure this one's not going to disappoint. Then I got The Little Coffee Shop in Kabul, and this sounds like it's going to be a book about women and the strength of women. It seems like it's set in a very dangerous area and 5 women who gather in a coffee shop. And we will see what happens after that. Yes, I did read the back of the book when I finally got home. One that keeps pitching up is The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. And I thought, well, I keep tripping over this book. It clearly wants me to read it. So I bought it. How's that for a very good reason? Apparently she has won the Pulitzer Prize, not with this one, but another one. The Interpreter of Maladies, I think, was the one that won the Pulitzer. So I'm curious to read this one, and I'm going to see what happens. I can't actually remember what this one said it was about. I think it's set in Calcutta. And then the last book that I picked up is by Robert Harris, and this one is The Fear Index. And I wanted Pompeii. That's one of the books that I've ordered. And so, yeah, and then when I went to Jimmy's, he had 4 copies of it. So I can't go buy a second-hand copy when I've already ordered the new one. So I settled for something else. And I couldn't remember what the other was that was recommended in the comments down below of the video 3 videos ago. I know there was another one mentioned by him, but I can't remember which one it was. And now I see that this one doesn't have the best ratings by some booktubers that I really, well, I kind of agree with. So we'll see what I think of it. At least it's not super long, but I enjoyed Conclave, so we'll see what I think of this one. And that is my book haul and my reading wrap up. I'm keeping it short, sweet, and to the point so that I can go back to bed and carry on reading. Well, so I can go to bed, not back to bed, and carry on reading. Currently, I'm in bed with Putin. That's disturbing. But I'm reading The Unlikely Rise of Vladimir Putin, The Man Without a Face by Masha Gessen. That was recommended by a book olive, I think last year or the year before. And I've been interested ever since, and I finally got my hands on a copy, and I'm finding it very interesting, however very chilling. It's not necessarily a nice good night read. And then I'm still plodding my way through The Woman Who Ran with Wolves, although I think I'm giving it one more chapter, and if it doesn't do something for me, I am going to DNF it. Because at this point in time, I don't see the point in carrying on. I'm reading it to mock it, which is not the intention, I don't think. But it's an intellectual exercise. Anyway, that's me, so I'm going to stop waffling. Happy reading. Bye for now.